Yes. I'll help you with that in just a second.
So we just need a place to sit, so we can sit there. We can sit here. We can sit here.
You have already befriended all the panelists, Jitendra.
No, sir.
You're going to thwart all the plans.
Oh, sir. That will not stop me from attacking them. Pulkit is saying that if all the panelists become very friendly, then it won't be a good.
Do you want to say they're going to start doing this?
Hot takes.
Before we don't
Just
Hello, everyone. We are going to start the panel in a couple of minutes.
Why do you think it's too long? Chendra's already sleeping.
As soon as this panel ends, I want to get something to eat. I think it's today I could sleep for 10.
I don't think I'm actually going to talk.
Okay, hi.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I missed your talk.
No worries. Yeah,
Okay.
I will stay facing.
Okay.
I'd rather.
Yeah, we'll put you on high.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I've never, I think I've never read
Georgia is here. Okay. So now we are missing Vikash, who is there. So now everybody's here.
Now you can move to the stage.
Okay.
Sit next to
Do
your.
you have any assigned order? Random is okay?
Random is okay.
I'm going to give you these two mics to give to them, yeah?
Yeah.
They might be on. So.
Leaving on the edge, yes. Also, you don't want to disagree with your friends. You want to always have he always has like this before. Like he says, this is how it should be. This all
My
sounds
job
so
is to
nice.
hold the mic. For the past mic. My job is to hold the mic.
So we have a timer over there.
1 hour, okay.
So then we'll expect that every response, if we can keep it within 2 minutes,
Okay.
you know. No, 2 minutes.
Okay.
So we'll do it like a 2-minute timer.
Okay. Cool.
But I mean, don't worry.
But you're going to because to begin with, you don't want, because we've all given talks, so we don't need to expound.
No. Yeah,
You will ask.
I'll ask questions.
Okay.
I'll ask questions.
Okay.
And then, so we'll ask probably 3 questions from us just to get things started, and then we'll open it up to general discussion. I think most of this could be Q&A.
Okay.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll make it clear that we want it to be more controversial. So you can bring on your controversial answers. But a part of it is also to have some message for people to take away.
Is this part recorded?
The what?
Is this public or recorded, or what is it? It's public but not recorded.
So they are going to be camera recording it.
And then it'll go up on YouTube.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you could avoid.
We have politically correct.
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't even launch into my Trump screen. I mean, that would get my DARPA funding cut off. Huh? I think you did.
You're on the mic.
Okay.
That's the question. Who is red for robotics?
Political situation works when politics.
No politics questions.
Settle down slowly.
Yeah, you're not miking up. Are you miking up?
I'm just going to hold it.
Actually, I'm glad to have been here.
Oh, yeah.
If I was in the US, I would have just been much more succinct. Yeah.
First time it happened, I just I was so far
Not working.
that it's not even a possibility. How can this happen?
Oh, I think when you come up.
Yeah. I was at OpenAI, and then everyone wrote a message saying, under the weather, not coming to office.
Testing.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me.
Ready to go?
Whenever you guys are. Yeah, you guys are in charge.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So it's been, full packed 3 days of the conference. And to end it off, we have a treat for you by having all our keynote speakers participate in a panel. The hope is we can make this panel be spicy and maybe even a bit controversial. So, please bring your questions. And the format is going to be that we're going to kick it off with, a couple of questions and then open it up for the audience. And, we also request the panelists to, keep their responses to 2 minutes. So we'll get started. And I guess you already know all the panelists, so we won't go into the introductions. Everyone had a chance to put their best position in their talks, right? So to kick it off, I'll pose a question to panelists, and you can go in any order and respond to it. So the first question is, so as we were walking along in the conference, we heard many students came up, and they asked the question, is robotics all about scaling up now? Could we go on a beach for 5 years, let all the scaling up efforts work and come back? Or is there more things that need to be done other than scaling up? For example, do we need to work on the hardware? Or is it just a software problem that needs to be solved? Do we have the sensing? Do we have the algorithms? What is it that needs to be done? Is it just scaling or not? No, just go for it.
You want me? Okay. No, it's not just scaling up.
I second Jitendra.
It was just a yes or no.
Maybe I have a point of view on this. So in the field of ubiquitous computing, there is a phrase that the best technologies are the ones that disappear. Okay, by that they mean is so seamless that you don't feel their existence present in your world, right? That's what they mean by being disappearing, right? So that is a big challenge, even if we get the robots to work. Will they be accepted? Do we have enough ecosystem and environments for them to thrive for a long time? I think that's an open question. And we can see that already happening for self-driving, right? There is a lot of additional infrastructure that will be built for them to really thrive. Even going back, like when horse chariots were replaced by cars, they only got replaced when roads, traffic lights, everything else came into being. So I think we need to go through that phase. Okay.
All right. So I think I have a more optimistic view about this. Basically, it's all about finding the right problem. So before we start this scaling journey, we had lots of interesting problems. And I view scaling as a phase where we'll also discover tons of interesting problems, like where does data come from? There's lots of like competing views, and that's all exciting. And after, like presumably once we got after the phase of like, okay, now we have scaled it up, what do we work on? There's still going to be lots of interesting problems to work on. Just look at language models or vision. So I'm not afraid of this happening. It's not like a pessimistic thing. I'm pretty optimistic about the future. So.
Yeah, I would have to say that, I mean, the question is scale what? The environments that we test on, scale the number of robots, or is it just about data? Because if it is just about data without any structure, again, I will use this word, you understood that I like this word, then no, I don't think this is the way to go. I believe that there are a lot of sub-problems that you can start from a smaller scale. And the question is, do we need to push to broaden the experimentation, whatever it is that we do, even collecting data? Yes, we need to, but it needs to understand what we are scaling and why, and when do we make this next leap. So is it enough if you do a paper with a single peg and a hole and you show that this is working with, I don't know, visual tactile, like to go back to Jitendra? Maybe not much, but doing a wide range of visual tactile skills, like demonstrating that you can do many things, is a scaling step towards, you know, something other that comes after, that I think it's very important.
Well, okay, so my intuition is that you don't just scale the current methods and hope to solve robotics. Maybe there is a scaling solution, but it's going to require some change in the fundamental methods. So that's just my intuition. However, I know something which is true, which is we cannot follow a single path. No matter what path it is, we cannot just follow the path. The community will die if it just picks one way to go. So we absolutely need to consider multiple ways of going. So the scaling people, if you think it's going to work, yes, but not everyone jump into the same bandwagon and have the wheels fall off, because then we'll be stuck. So I guess I have a two-sided view on that.
Yeah, I would say scaling also no, and then in analogy to vision, there was also this vague, we just scale, but now we're just going back, and basically the quality of the data matters a lot, right? And all this fine-tuning, reinforcement learning is not so much about just scaling, it's more about doing the right thing, right? Because if you just throw in any data, then, I mean, often the result is just anything, basically. So.
Okay, so, yeah.
May I ask then?
Isn't spicy enough?
We'll get there.
It's getting there.
The night,
Probably more spicy when we get to the audience, I think. So another thing that's kind of come up a lot of the talks is this idea of priors, right? And there's also this idea of the bitter lesson that we have to be very careful about what kind of priors we incorporate, and that sometimes, you know, trying to incorporate priors might actually slow down research, and that, you know, just relying on data might actually ultimately be the best performance. And so given the fact that, you know, we have talked a lot about different priors, What is your thought on that? Like, would you respond to people who say, it's all about the data?
Yeah, and maybe juxtapose this to the previous responses. Like all of you said that scaling is not necessary, or not. It's not the only thing which is required, but you need priors. So the question is,
what makes a good prior?
What is a good prior?
I'm going to combine both and give a comprehensive answer. I think everyone said that it's not just scaling, but then what it is my question. Aren't we just scaling, just one scaling law's end, and we pick up the next scaling laws, and then we scale that scaling law, and we pick up the third one? So it seems like we should just be scaling, just different things at different times.
Are you equating thought and progress with scaling?
Sometimes scale the structures make it bigger.
Well, okay.
Vikas, can you use a mic?
Yeah, we need, okay.
Oh, we have a second mic. Can we maybe pass it?
No, I mean, we need to improve methods, right? I mean, I think calling it a scaling is perhaps a little misleading, right?
Yeah, so maybe if I rephrase things, is data scaling enough? Then the answer from the panel seems like no. But your question was, is scaling enough? Then the answer is yes.
Okay, so let's rephrase it.
Scaling, yeah.
So let's say that you're saying that data scaling is not enough, right? There's other things that need to be done. So what are those things that need to be done?
Prior, the second question now.
Okay, from my point of view, the essence is compositionality, right? So the LLMs were a miracle, right? Nobody expected them. Anybody who tells you they expected the behavior is lying, right? So it was a surprise that they produced combinatorial behavior without explicitly being trained for that, right? So that was amazing. And there's, you can hope that if you do the same thing with robot data, that the same miracle will happen. I don't think there's evidence that it's happening. But still, compositionality, I think, is the key. So figuring out how to get compositional behavior is, I think, the key. Now, the trouble, I mean, if you take large policies and you say they're going to go together, well, typically policies don't unless you think about it. Like you say, well, I'm going to make a text-conditioned policy that is going to be trained over a sufficient range so that it can compose nicely. Okay, that seems reasonable. But I think having a strategy for how your work is going to come together in a compositional way to address a broad range of problems, I think that's the thing. Now, the so-called bitter lesson, I won't say it.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up because I can't agree with Thomas more. But I want to kind of make a related point, which is that we have to separate the problem from the solution. Like prior or compositionality can be both a problem and a solution. But if you look into these, the thing that don't change, right, are the invariances is the need for compositionality and forever kind of journey to get to compositionality with various methods, right? So back to the first point I make, as we're changing sort of through the phases of research, if we can kind of hold on to the invariances, it will manifest in different phases. We'll find a way to pose that as a problem and find a solution that gives that. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the bitter lesson is, I think, being presented in a very simplified way. I mean, even in the neural network world, I mean, we have gone through various changes of architectures, and they certainly reflect a lot of experience and intuitions and so forth. There is a lot of effort which goes into the design of loss functions. There's a lot of effort which goes into curating the data. So just to say, oh, there's a magic wand and that works and all the other cleverness is in there. This is not true even in the dominant scaling up paradigm. I mean, yeah. Scaling up is not raw scaling up. I mean, scaling up is too important to be left to the scaling up people. Somebody has to clean it up. Okay. Okay. But I have a more substantial point. I do like, there is some way in which my philosophy changed from a traditional computer vision person to the deep learning era, and it's the same philosophy I bring to robotics. There is, to me, it comes down to, I want to have the data speak, right? So there is this line, shut up and let the data speak. So I do want that, but with some guardrails. So it's a little bit, to me, like, what is it that you need to build in, which you should build in somewhat minimally. So you build in a very minimal set, and then after that, let the data speak. So to be controversial or bold, I'll make my statement. So I think that if I think about child development and what people know, and there is a lot of debate about what's in the genetics and what's in the environment and all that, but there are two aspects which I feel are quite important and which we don't know how to learn. One is the choice of reward functions, and the other is the curriculum. So my sense is that if you think about the stages of development for motor development, nature seems to have found a very good curriculum, and it also seems to have found this set of rewards. I mean, the kid at certain stages wants to explore. Like, why? Right? I mean, you have infinite regress. At some point, you have to say, no, they just have this, intrinsic motivation, and you have to stop it somewhere. And that so we have to say, okay, genetically it was built in, and otherwise, evolutionarily, they would not have succeeded. So my claim here is the reward structure and the curriculum is something that we have to, that right now we kind of have to impose. And after that, we can let the data speak.
But if I can also share.
I have to object. Can
No.
I go first?
Okay, no. Why do you want to object?
Why didn't God came in and provided few structures for us? Why did it let us just like, hey, single cellular animals, just go and figure out your own curriculum and reward structures over time? I mean, that's the question over here.
No, at the level of evolution, everything was figured out by evolution, right? So it's all such, right? At the level of that, but that's too hollow an answer to work when we are talking about, like if you talk to a biologist and you say, oh, like they get very annoyed when if a neuroscientist, you're talking to them and you say, oh yeah, it's all learning. Some was done in the life of an individual, some was done in the evolution. They say, I mean, their bread and butter is figuring out exactly what, right? They want to figure out what were you were born with, and then the stages of development. I mean, that is their study. So it's too facile an answer to say, oh, it's all gradient descent over some space. So the details matter, and the details will matter for us in practice as well, because we cannot do, this. We are not going to replicate 550 million years of evolutionary research.
Yeah. So we have to come from the standpoint that we have some robotic structures that we have available, whether they are humanoid robots, static manipulators, or mobile manipulation robots in different forms, and each of them can have their own capabilities. So I agree on the fact of like, how do we define a reward function? How do we do exploration, for example? How do we discover skills or we imitate skills? Because it's not only about discovery. Humans are also imitating a lot of these processes, but we have priors. The body that we come with and the senses that we come with are our priors. And then through a continuous process of learning and exploring, then from that, your previous state, let's say, becomes your prior for the next one, and it's a continual learning process with humans. And this is not something that we are currently investigating. And there is a structure not only in our bodies, into the way that we are processing the information in our brains, how the information is being stored, for example, in our brains is also having a certain structure. There are many cognitive scientists actually discovering these things, and we should also think about the architectures that we are developing. Like the convolutional neural networks have a prior. Transformers have a prior. So it is also a matter of understanding inside this network. It's not just a plug and play. We should still actively, continually think about these things and how we could build on top of, okay, I train now this policy, but how can I go to the next stage? And what does it give me? What do I need to remember? What do I need to forget about? So I don't really think, I agree with Thomas that we should be, in general, flexible, and people should be able to explore all possible solutions. This is the academic way to go, but we should also keep in mind other options. I don't know to propose to everybody that these are the structures, to go back to the question that everybody should use, whether there should be geometric priors or physics priors, but I just say we have to be aware of these things. We have to be aware, for example, of control in order to be able to solve a problem. Because if you try to, solve in a simple problem that we can really mathematically solve and it doesn't need to be learned, then why should you waste the data on that? So you should be clever also about the data that you want to use.
Yeah, I would say that this question about compositionality versus LLMs is a good question, right? Because basically I'm a believer in compositionality, but it has gone away gradually, right? I mean, basically LLMs, it has gone away. Basically you can just feed in a lot of long sequences. Vision, it's also more and more, you don't need to go back to understand each thing in detail and have rules between them, but you can be processed on the fly by an LLM or by one large model. And so, I mean, in robotics, I think this is a good question. How much compositionality do we need? How do we set up the problem, right? Is it just like one model which kind of processes the data? Obviously, the data has to be curated. We have to have interaction with the world, reinforcement learning, all this I think we agree on. But then what's really the granular model which we need? I don't know, right? And I always like having objects. I like having things, understanding things which are happening. But nowadays we see a lot of approaches which actually don't need this anymore. And so I think this is a key question. How much of this do we need? And I mean, I'm more in your ballpark, but I could also argue the other way around. So we just have an argument, right?
So maybe I'll somewhat disagree with Cordelia. Okay, the following is true. In computer vision, we used to talk about compositionality a lot, right? And we talked about objects with parts and so on and so forth. And that stuff is, I'm sad to say, but it has basically gone away. I mean, I'm a little bit sad about it because I devoted many years of my life on such things. Okay, similar things have happened in language, right? Okay, and I can kind of rationalize it because I think in the case of language, it was all their theories rather than what was really kind of true about the world. A lot of it was linguist theories about how it must be, and they weren't quite correct. Why I feel that may not carry over to robotics. So I'm saying that the language case and vision case, the compositionality became implicit. Right? It is there in the networks, but it's implicit, it's not explicit. In robotics, where we all, I think probably everybody here would agree that there has to be hierarchy, right? There has to be a hierarchy in action, otherwise it's never going to be tractable. But will the hierarchy just emerge implicitly? I mean, if we're following the language case and vision case, I mean, that's right. That's the question. I am a bit wary. Okay, I'm getting to be like Thomas, I guess. That maybe, no, but here's my question. Attempts for, like, and there must be people in the room who are big believers in hierarchical RL. I'm not. As far as I'm concerned, hierarchical RL.
How are you going to get to San Francisco?
Yeah, so no, but it's not hierarchical RL. It's hierarchical something, but it's not RL. So like this path with options and so on. I mean, I've not found convincing examples of that working on real systems. And So there is hierarchy always in control, but it's sort of designed. Okay, now will this always be the case? We do not know, right? So I think I'm just saying that today, the hierarchies in motor control, which I put on a continuum with planning, the most successful ones seem to be designed. Whereas in language and vision, we've got to the stage where those are implicit and emerge.
So if I were to summarize the panel in some ways, right? So we're talking about all algorithmic problems. So then do you all agree that we have the hardware and sensing ready? And all we need to figure out is, abstractions, compositionality.
Pulkit, you're hiding something in your lab we don't know about?
There's some hidden agenda here.
There is no agenda. I was just observing for last 20 minutes, and all we talked about were learning problems. So I thought maybe you guys all feel.
Yeah, Pulkit. Okay, so what I would say is that the hardware now is good enough that we're holding it back. So that doesn't mean that the hardware can't be improved or shouldn't be improved. I mean, the integration of tactile sensing that is robust and easy to use and so on into hands and so on is still a problem. I remember when the PR2 people first visited me to ask me what I thought the most important thing was for a new robot. I said, robust tactile sensing. And they said, oh, we've got that solved. And I still think robust tactile sensing, maybe you guys have it solved, but I remain skeptical until I see it. But so the hardware is not holding us back relative to, I think we're holding it back. Can I say something about compositionality?
Actually, could I switch over to, because we're like already 25 minutes in, and I would really love to open it up to just questions from the...
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's very simple. I think what's happened is that the compositionality is buried in language now, right? So language is compositional, and all the lack of compositionality that you're seeing in vision is because it's leveraging the language. And I think some of that will work in robotics as well. But the fact that it works that way in language and vision doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work that way in robotics. But I think the leveraging the language is actually a key way of getting compositionality.
And on top of that, about like modularity and whether it should be explicit or implicit, one question, like, do you see the language models and the large vision models being robust with their implicit compositionality?
Sorry, can I just quickly say something? Okay, all right.
We should let the mic flow.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you would classify robust. But if you look at the outputs, I mean, you cannot...
But this is a human judging something that looks nice. The question is, will this translate to robotics?
Well, I mean, this is another question, right? I mean, are they robust? Is the reply meaningful? I would say yes. I mean, I look at the results, I would say it's really amazing, right? I mean, you cannot say it's not good. I mean, you cannot hide behind your old models and say it's not working. It is working really well, right? And the progress...
Better than the previous approaches, right?
No, but if you look at them, I'm happy. By looking at them, I'm just happy. I mean, it's good. I mean, you cannot say it's not good. I mean, basically, obviously, nothing is ever perfect. But it's very good, right? And even nowadays, we have these models where we can not only have the text output or the language description, but we can also ground the descriptions directly in the sentence. We can have these language models with temporal and now also spatial grounding, and it's just in this one model, and it's implicit, right? What you're saying is completely correct. The language is there as some bridge between the vision and the human understanding, right? Because that's what it's about, right? And so the question is how much, I mean, I don't know how well it will carry over to robotics, but I think for vision, it was very surprising. I mean, a few years back, we had this AVA vocabulary, and we really believed in it. And now I looked at it and I thought, like, this is like completely outdated nowadays, right? I wouldn't design a vocabulary and then predict this vocabulary. I would just say, whatever, predict what's in the video, and it works, right? And I think we're just in the beginning also, right? These models, they continue to progress. I mean, and it's not, I mean, it's not about the data, it's about the way you present the data to them, right? And this is also about the children, right? I mean, if a child learns, you don't give it garbage. You really tell it, this is how you should speak, this is how you should learn, this is what this image means, and it's much more about the quality than about the quantity, right?
So I think this is an excellent transition point to go to audience questions.
Hi, I'm Tariq from BDI. My question is about more end-to-end versus more modular structure methods. So currently, when I look at the robot learning, it kind of reminds me the early days of self-driving cars, where people were doing end-to-end methods, collecting a lot of data both in real world and simulation, and then training end-to-end methods. But then when they figured out that the long tail problem is not going to be solved with these methods, there's so many edge cases. And when we look at the successful of the implementation of self-driving cars today, it's more like modular, like really good state estimators of the pedestrians' cars, and then doing planning on top of that. So when I look at it, this looks like a good lesson for robot learning as well. And I guess my question is about, would you agree with this? And if not, if you think we should push forward with the end-to-end methods, how do we solve the long tail edge cases, long tail problem of the end-to-end methods?
Yeah, is it for a specific person? Or?
No, all of you.
Whoever wants to take it.
I think that this relates again back to the previous, question, and I would say that it is good to have diversity in research in the methodologies, because, people may be hopeful for the one approach or the other, and it is good enough to be aware of the options that you have and to have different streams of research, and then we will see what in the end is going to be working, being adaptive, robust, safe, to be applied in the real world. Yeah.
Okay, can I just add this? If you're pro end-to-end methods, how do you think we're going to solve the long tail problem?
I didn't understand the question.
What was the question?
If you're pro end-to-end methods, if you think we should scale up imitation learning, how do you think we are going to be able to solve the long tail distribution problem? How are we going to be able to
I personally am not. So,
okay, so
maybe somebody else that is pro this would have.
No, I think it depends really what you call end-to-end. Yeah. End-to-end is not a good definition. I don't like this term at all, right? Because it's not, you don't have one end-to-end model which solves everything. You have something which is tailored to some task or something. And then basically, if you have whatever, if you look at an LLM, just ask the question, it has to be a precise question. If you look at an LLM, what people now do for this rare class is they have reinforcement learning, right? And this kind of teaches the LLM or whatever, or the model, these edge cases. And that's kind of what works for language. And while for the other cases, I don't know. For robotics, I don't know. And for vision, it's not working yet.
Yes, the question is more about the visual language action models, where they do also long horizon action execution.
Yeah, I think there we don't know at all what's the right solution today, right? And definitely not I wouldn't call it an end-to-end model, but there might be some structure which is not decomposing the thing into precise tasks, but maybe something where you have implicit representations which you can then combine or something. But I think this is open for debate. We don't know today, right?
So I think here we need to separate problem from solutions. Long tail is a problem, end-to-end is a solution. We can solve long tail with end-to-end, it can be solved in anything. It's just as compositionality, right? A system exhibiting compositionality doesn't have to be compositional, right? So it can be a guiding principle that we all explore. Somebody may say end-to-end, somebody may say compositional system can solve that, but we need to separate the problem from solution.
Okay, I think the question was a little ill-posed in the sense that the problem in at least manipulation is not the rare case, it's the average case. So I don't think we have to worry too much about the long tail yet. I guess if we're doing manipulation of explosives, then okay, let's worry about end-to-end. But I think, if we're picking up cups and stuff, then the really problem that we want is be able to move stuff out of the way to reach the cup. That's the average case. And there's a question as to whether existing methods can do the average case. So, I don't know what the question.
So let's move to the next question, and Vikash, maybe you can respond to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want. I think we gotta stop worrying about the tail end problems, guys. This is what robotics people have been caught up forever. Everyone creates, hey, we cannot solve this new problem, and then they solved it, and it doesn't collect back. The thing doesn't work right now. Make it at least work, and then we worry about the tail later. If you keep going at the extremity, the mean is empty. There is nothing happening, nothing working over there.
You just miss a lot of safety people.
That's okay. Yeah, please hate me as long as we fix the code.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all the insights you've been giving us for the past few days. I have a question regarding accelerating the research in general. So as it was mentioned by Thomas in the beginning, that we should go in different diverse ways, but do you think that we should have something like a global generalized benchmarks with either for modules or for full system pipelines that could really be handled by a committee or by something verified by you, for example, that could be used by other researchers, that we can really accelerate, whether comparing classical methods, end-to-end methods, specific modules. I see that it's happening across the vision, for example, community a lot, and there are quite very good benchmarks that you can compare, and for some of the learning stuff, but not everywhere. Because what I've seen in the posters, for example, and in the presentations, I could put my system, I could put computational power as much as I am capable of, and then I measure based on some metrics that I choose by myself. So what do you have as a comment on that?
Yeah, I have some opinions on this. So when I first got into robotics, I came from vision, and I thought that this would be my first contribution to robotics, to get people to pay attention to standard data sets, benchmarks, and so on. And over time, I concluded that I was misguided, okay? Okay, and here's why. So that's why I think I can answer the question in subtlety. There are certain problems where this is exactly the right mode. So in particular for navigation, a bunch of us got together and we wrote a report and we proposed this measure called SPL, okay? And I think it's still the right measure, because for simulation, for navigation, that's a pretty good metric. The gap between sim to real is not that much, and so on. Okay, now when you get to manipulation problems, I mean, they're the usual arguments that the roboticists at that time used to make, which I used to regard as excuses, which is, oh, our equipment is different, this is different, this is different. So those are all valid points in terms of the difficulty of doing benchmarks compared to Envision. I think we'll all agree on that. What I thought was, okay, sometimes instead of just telling people do X, you should just do X yourself, right? So there what I found is, I think it behooves all of us to be as scientifically honest as possible. Okay, I think this sounds like motherhood and apple pie, but actually if everybody did that, we would benefit a lot. And I think that needs to be done, which means that you really genuinely try to understand where your method works and doesn't work. Where possible, you try to have a baseline which is someone else's work. Legislating it is not going to be super effective. And that's just it. So sadly, it is true that in robotics, work is not as additive as it happens in computer vision because of the benchmarks. So what happens is, because of the benchmarks, people quickly realize, okay, this particular change to the architecture, okay, use rope for position embeddings. Okay, so now we have the numbers, we agree, then everybody will use that. So effectively, there's a community gradient descent happening. And this isn't quite happening in robotics, and yeah, so that will slow down progress, but it's for good reasons. But people should try to be really scientific, and I think people are not being. So we would be, well, and we are just relying on R2 to do this job. And R2 is not necessarily super competent. I mean, sadly, that's the way in any community. But try to be honest about the scientific method, yeah, which has a whole lot of rules which are written up. I mean, you know, there's nothing new we can say. I mean, it's been worked out over time. So anyway,
I want to say that I'm surprised that Jitendra said that he will not create the ImageNet of robotics. There's a realization, but I don't think there will be a global benchmark, just to be sure. Like, this is something that roboticists try to establish on various levels, even in simulation. Like, we have some simulation benchmarks, but I agree with Jitendra that actually we have to know the scientific practices and how to do good scientific evaluation. If I just put a percentage there without, I don't know, doing 2 seeds or whatever, without even putting a variance, this doesn't say anything, actually. Then you have to be public, like to open source your data, to exactly say how you did your experiments and so on. But also I don't want to be pessimistic about the field, because we really did a lot of progress. If you see at locomotion, navigation, locomotion, autonomous driving, there has been progress. Of course, it didn't become everything a product yet. So to also accelerate everything that is happening and really understand whether it has an impact or not, I think what comes also from the industry and the exploitation of research, it's something that shows us whether something is going to, you know, if this methodology really works. So we cannot, unfortunately, academia can go this far and can really show you what types of methods, how to evaluate, and so on. But then it comes like to you or any other people, like say, okay, I really believe in this method, I will make a startup, or I will try to push for a product. If this doesn't happen to come out in the society, then, I mean, this is for me how we could evaluate, for example, if methodologies really give something to society.
I really agree with you. I think here's where industry can come out and help us, because ImageNet showed the possibility of scaling up computer vision. Autonomous vehicle industry built upon that, released a whole lot of benchmarks for us to use because they met problems in their production. Now, academia showed some possibility of scaling robotics. Industry should apply that to real-world problems, tell us what problems you saw, and give us data, benchmarks for us to work on. I think that's where we should work together.
Let's see, I've always been skeptical about you know, global benchmarks and stuff, but I don't think we're ready for them primarily. But I do think there is something very important which is related to the scientific question, which is metrics. So, for example, you know, in some of the talks that I heard today, you know, over the last couple of days, you know, people say, oh, this is out of distribution. And, well, it's not clear. Or what does it mean to be general, right? How do we test generality? I think these are things which are deep questions that we don't have precise answers to. So, you know, if you show me your result, and here's a picture, and here's another picture, and here's another picture, and it beat the baseline, what did I learn actually, how good your method was, how does it generalize, and so on? Well, no. So I don't think we have good ways of evaluating our methods, even, you know, outside of benchmarks and, global data sets and stuff like that. So I think we do need to really deeply understand what we're trying to do if we're actually going to climb the performance slope.
I have 2 points to make. One is, in order for benchmark to be successful, to tell us something that we learned from it, you should be able to do good A/B testing, right? If multiple factors are changing, it's really hard to figure out where the signal is. And Vincent, I don't know if he's here, he has an excellent article on A/B testing in robotics, right? So that is a mechanism we can follow forward. A global benchmark, I'm not sure how we can define one where everyone can subscribe to. But I do like the idea of industry highlighting certain things that are not working and we picking up those signals and making progress on them. However, there is a subtle thing which I don't know if everyone is cognitively aware of it or not. We do release our data sets and problems statements or like code bases with non-permissive licenses for them to use. So there is a barrier somewhere in the middle, which is academic purposes only, and if you want problem statements from them, they cannot use your method right away. So you need to think a little bit more about how to bridge or like cross over this boundary.
Great, so can we move to the next question? Yes, in the back.
Oh, hi. I was happy we asked the question of like, will data solve robotics? What does maybe robotics look like solved in the future? When are you going to say, yes, we've solved it? Is there like a general purpose robot that can do everything? Is there an embodiment, like a human-like robot, then it can do everything that a human can do, and then we've solved it? What to you is robotics solved, I guess?
Whenever we can stop talking about R of X paradox. Yeah. Whenever we can say, now we have some being that can do the things that, I mean, sensory motor level that kind of kids or us can do.
Go for it. I don't know about solved, but I remember there was one of the early DARPA challenges in which, Stanford's cars with Sebastian Thrun won the race. And I was less interested in that, but the fact that the third place car or something was an insurance company that had pulled 3 people out of the, put ads out for 3 people, and they slapped a bunch of stick lasers on a car, and it finished the race. So at that point I said, okay, this has become a technology, not a research area. So my definition is when an insurance company can pull 3 of, any of you or whatever, and stick them in a room, and you come up with a thing which is a robot, we're done.
For me, robot is a futuristic thing. It keeps moving forward. The moment something works, you just give it a name, right? At some point, car was a robot, now we call it a car, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a personal definition for it that I don't know if I'll call it solved, but there is a good milestone in my mind. When I would put my own money to buy one, that day I'll call one milestone achieved.
My definition would be the dexterity of a 5-year-old. So we can, so we would have to then have specific tasks where we can measure it, but we can do that. We do this for people who have had strokes and you want to judge their motor competence. The medical/clinical community has certain tests that they use. For children, they use it at a stage sometimes to measure if they are developmentally retarded in some form. So there are tests that clinicians use to judge deficits on particular dimensions, and those could be applied. I think to me there will be, the question is, when will there be the ChatGPT moment, or what will be the moment which, like for NLP, there was a very sharp moment where you felt, okay, now it's happened, and before that it wasn't there, right? Like nobody asked the question, will this pass the Turing test? Like we didn't have to do it. Whereas previously there was a competition for decades on the Turing test which had some silly, chatbots competing and so on. But now you felt, okay, it's done. So I think that home robots, where you have a robot in your home that actually provides value that people buy for the way, I I think Thomas and I are maybe the older people on this panel. We remember when computers came to the home. You're older than me, okay? No, we remember when computers came to the home. Computers came to the home, and before that, and they came because there were a few apps that you would have which were useful. I mean, maybe it was a spreadsheet, maybe it was a game, maybe it was a word processing program. So when you have a robot in the home which can do a few useful things, currently it's basically Rod Brooks's Roomba, right? And we want something with sort of more capabilities where it kind of feels like, oh, it's like an iPhone with where you'll download lots of apps and it'll do good things for me. So when it will come, you will know, is the answer.
I just want to say that I don't believe it will be solved. Oh, so like I agree with everything what is said, I mean, in terms of dexterity and everything, but I still believe it's up to becoming a product or being integrated out of the lab on the job. Because, for example, it's always we should take into account how the society and industry or whatever is also evolving. So in the past, in the 60s and the 70s, the problem was how do we bring automation in industry, in car industry, and so on. And this was looking good enough, right? It was working. And then there was a new need, and then we needed to add more perception, more autonomy, and so on. It's also a matter of what like humans don't want to do anymore, and they require automation. So I think it's like a step-by-step. Like, do I have now my house cleaned by my Roomba, given that I put all my furniture in the correct location? Yes, this is kind of solved, right? But I can also reference Nima, my friend there, that he says that I think he will consider robotics solved if they can take care of babies.
Yeah, I think solved is like a big word, right? And so basically what you can say, you can have intermediate goals. So for me, it would be like if you have this whole household robot where you don't have to clean your house anymore, where the robot just goes and cleans the house, and we're still very far away from this. Or the cooking robot, right? These things you can really have as goals. Or you can have other goals, like for example, in elderly care homes where there's like a lot of demand about these robots, where actually somehow was in touch with them, and they're kind of really interested to have this support because they're lacking people working there. And I think there's like intermediate goals, and then obviously robotics is also, there's a big problem about acceptance from the society, right? If you talk to people, they're always afraid of it. So, I mean, once it's solved, we have to also be careful how to deploy it, but I think this is all far away.
But for that, there are also the ISOs. Like if it passes the ISO and gets the certification, then, for that, this thing is kind of solved. Yeah. But it is going to keep evolving, like all the machines are evolving.
Yeah, let me put in a plug for Rod Brooks, who is trying to make these predictions of when certain technology will be there. But in the course of making those bets, he has tried to specify some tasks clearly enough. Like he says, okay, self-driving cars, then you have to define what you mean by that properly, right? And then he has a certain definition, and then he makes a prediction. Okay, this will be ready by not before 2023, or not in my lifetime, and so on. But I think for people who are curious, that's one reasonable attempt at defining a set of tasks specifically enough so that you could evaluate whether the predicate is true or false.
So we have heard about, ChatGPT, ImageNet, and so on. And if you look at the computer vision, there was first MNIST, then CFAR, and then ImageNet. So just a quick, bite from you. Where do you think we are in robotics? Is it pre-MNIST, post-MNIST, CFAR, getting closer to ImageNet?
I mean, I think the comparison is a bit lacking, right? But I would say MNIST, right? I mean, ImageNet is still not completely realistic, but at least it's detecting objects, it's doing the task, while MNIST was kind of really still quite a toy problem.
I mean, so I want to take a little quibble. Okay, the point I want to make is computer vision and speech are quite different from robotics because you can do this passive evaluation. And I think the thing to realize is that in computer vision, there was a very long tradition of evaluation. It didn't start with ImageNet, right? It started with MNIST. There were face detection data sets. There was the Berkeley segmentation data sets. There was Pascal. There was ImageNet, there was COCO, and so on. It's like there were many data sets. There were always benchmarks for evaluating them. So, okay, you talk to the speech people, the same thing. Okay, there isn't a corresponding thing in robotics, and probably for good reason. Though I do think it would be one thing which slightly bothers me about in the robotics field, which I wish was slightly different, is that the set of problems that people work on is very varied. Now, you can view that as a bug or a feature. But in computer vision, like people think object detection, very clear problem. Bounding box, IOU better than 50%. And then you have like 20% of the community working on that problem. It's helpful for scientific progress for there to be certain model problems on which a lot of the team, lot of the community devotes attention. So in biology, they could study every possible species, but no, they study Drosophila, they study the mouse, they study macaques. I mean, there are certain species they focus on because then you get some accumulation of results. So I think that for robotic, in vision, we did this for segmentation, we did this for recognition, and so on. So having a small set of problems, it need not be 3, it may be 10, on which there is not universal consensus, but a widespread belief that, yeah, this would be useful or revealing of progress. I think that would be good, because then even if we don't have one common number, we will at least have additive progress. So the biologists have additive progress on Drosophila, even though they don't have any benchmark on Drosophila.
Hello, thanks you all for your really interesting discussions. My question will be more ethical and philosophical. In the far future, do you think a robot in our household will be conscious? And if that's the case, what's the relationship between the human being and robots? Will it be like master-servant relationship, or will it be like more equal, we treat them equally? And how we should solve these ethical problems? Should we just prevent this ethical dilemma, or what are the reward priors and things we need to put in to prevent these things happening?
No comment.
I hope not. We should regulate it.
Yeah, I think we should maintain a boundary. So yeah, we should identify what a robot is. We should identify what a human is.
I realize that roboticists are like the crowd that least likely to answer this question because nothing works yet. So we tend to not be super imaginative about things. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the next question then.
Hi, yeah. So I also have some kind of fun question. So we are discussing about small advances, I would say, to robotics. But if we, at the same time, we have an AI community working on AGI. So robotics would be the physical interface to that super intelligence. Do you think that would basically, we could then cancel our conferences and then just let the AGI run the robots? Is this going to happen?
Yes.
Yep. If AGI happens for physical robots too.
If AGI will happen with physical robots.
Question?
Does AGI subsume?
So
correct. The question is, if AGI will happen, robots will be the embodiment or canvas over which it will happen. If those two statements are true, then will we still come to conferences?
So what if neither statement is true?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're still far away from this, right? It's like saying that everything is solved or whatever. I mean, this is like, okay, then once everything is solved, we're out of business, but I think it won't happen immediately. So, I mean, I think, and AGI, I mean, AGI is a term which is completely overhyped also, right? Yeah. Because we're not at AGI at all. I mean, some people claim that we're 5 years away from AGI, and I would say, I mean, I wouldn't support this statement at all. And robotics, it's even further away. So, I mean, it's not.
What is AGI?
Yeah,
AGI is a marketing product, so don't buy it.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, physical intelligence, i.e. robotics, has to be a crucial part of AI. I refuse to use the term AGI because AI is a perfectly good term. It has existed since 1956. What the heck is this AGI? Okay, seriously, I mean, I can go into a long history lecture on all the innovations, various ideas which came up in the 1950s, which are the precursor to various strands. It's like, I mean, the AI is a dream, and there were various ways to get to it. Like there were the neural network types, there were the control theory types, there were the symbolic AI types, and all of these were valid, and they're still progressing today. AGI is an arbitrary renaming made up in the 2000 to 2010 era, and for some reason I certainly do not give it any scientific credence. And this one I'm willing to be on record, I think. I mean, anyone else? Anyway,
just to give the question a little bit of credit, it's worth thinking about how things are going to change. Maybe not the infinite extreme of it, but I do think physical presence will get a little bit sort of softened. You might want to send like a robot on your behalf for doing a few things, which otherwise today you do it yourself.
Yeah, I would go even one step further than Jitendra. I don't even like the term AI that much, right? Because people overuse it completely. They say, my AI has done this. I mean, what does this mean? It doesn't mean anything. And it kind of hides what is behind the technology, right? An LLM can store some knowledge and reply to simple questions, but it's not an intelligent agent. It can do something. And I think we should really stick to what we want to do and state the problems clearly there. I mean, we have seen today, during these conferences and other conferences, there's still like a lot of open problems. So I think we should say, this is the problem we want to solve, and not overhype any terms which then also make people not understand at all what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe a bit of a simpler question. Going back to your point about us needing priors in models because of how we don't want to repeat the whole process that evolution took. But if we look at the advances in which priors actually improved the state of matters a lot, they were always introduced as topological priors. And by that I mean the structure of the model was picked in a certain way rather than us trying to introduce the human knowledge into the model itself. So do you think that maybe it's just the topological priors that are possible to actually be included in the models, and human priors do not bring so much benefit into the problem?
I believe there will be multiple attempts on it. Different priors will be attempted by different people, and we shouldn't be afraid of it, and natural selection will take its course. Some will die, it didn't work, 2 people used it, and then it died. Some will just surface up. I don't think we should be afraid of saying human priors, maybe they'll just die out. Start something. We have so many priors. Dinosaurs existed, they passed away, they did their job. Horse chariots existed, they did their job, went away. It's okay, it's a part of the process. Just try, if it sticks, it helped, otherwise went away.
So are there any more last questions?
Hi.
Just one last
I'll
quick
keep it
one.
short. My question is, how would you describe the relation between AI and robotics right now, the research communities? Because I know this relation has been a bit fluid. No, I'm not enough to have seen everything, but we have seasoned researchers here. So I'm just wondering, do you think the relation between the AI research community and the robotics research community is good as it is right now? How would you describe it? Are there any conclusions to draw from it?
In my mind, these are, I mean, there's a continuum, right? I mean, there are people who are working on robotics problems, there are people who are working on machine learning problems, there are people working on computer vision problems. Sometimes all of these people are labeled as AI. Sometimes AI is used in a more narrow way. It's sort of not not worth worrying about this. It's, there is a space where people find what they enjoy to work on, and these are not either distinct concepts. I mean, there's a strong overlap. I think it's not. So the practical question actually is this community isolated from worthwhile ideas in some other code community? And to me, the answer is no. I think people here do know about what's happening in various, like, to me, a community is defined by a conference. So are the people at this conference knowledgeable about what's published in Europe's? Are they knowledgeable about what's published in ICCV? Vice versa. And I think it could always be better, but it's not bad.
So on that note, we would like to thank all the speakers and all the panelists. Please give a round of applause. And now we'll move to the awards and the final closing ceremony.
Nothing to fight about. Huh? Good job. Nothing much to fight about. I think somehow the way this comes.
Not much conflict.
Okay. Huh? No, but I think someone, your jacket, Jitendra? You want a mic, right? Yeah. And we can give this one to us. Sure. Can we leave the chairs there? Is that okay?
Actually, no, because everyone is taking their way, because everyone's coming back for the awards.
Okay.
Let me also tell Amanda where the... Guys, Amanda Dieter, do you see those 6 boxes down there? The 6 boxes down there? We'll bring them. Yeah, the white and the brown ones. The white ones are for the nominees, and the candidates, the 2 brown ones are for the... I'll bring them on this side, but just one.
Okay, I hope you had a great conference. I think so far so good. It went actually quite well. I hope you really enjoyed the talk. I thought the program was really awesome. And now we're going to conclude mostly with the awards, but we're going to have a couple of few words before that.
Yeah, so excited to have you all here. Stick around for another half an hour to just see what papers won the awards and kind of like talk about like next CoRL. But we had a lot of fun. Including the train. So here's a picture of some people being stuck on the train. But I think given all of that, we actually ended up having a lot of fun at the banquet, at the conference, lots of awesome talks, awesome demos. That was really nice, like sponsor demos, including student demos also. And yeah, so we were really excited to end this conference with you all with the awards and then discussing next CoRL. Oh, if you have any complaints, direct them to Mark. No, I'm joking.
We're going to set up a post-conference survey, and yeah, please say all the nice things that you want to say, and maybe other things.
Yeah.
And now I think Majid wanted to say a few words. Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, sometime.
Okay. So you all agree, I mean, some of you were here. I think Oliver was here, Nima was here, all of you were here. I had 2 healthy legs when we started, right? I'm about to lose one of them. So I hope you enjoyed the conference. So remember I talked, I mean, some of you were here again. So I talked about if you are leaving early, please, I mean, today, for instance, please give us back the badges because we are short of badges. We need for some people tomorrow. So it would be very nice if you do it. So Francesco Romano was the first person who did it. Please. Yes. So all workshop rooms are here. I sent a map, right? It's tomorrow morning. Okay, so it's said in the website when they start and so on. please don't come earlier. We need to set things up, right? You will have enough time to talk about end-to-end, end to begin, begin to end. Don't worry, there are enough time. So actually, Nima told me that you were very funny in the opening. And I had enough dopamine that I said, OK, I should continue, really. So let's go with my cheesy jokes. I'm so sorry about that. So workshop rooms will be prepared in the morning. So 8:30, things should be prepared. So we'll be, fine. We can start. Farewell party is here. So if you, go out, you can have drinks, everything, dinner, and so on. So we start with the first floor and second floor, and then because I think half of people or few people actually left, so I think that's enough. But if we need, we can also arrange for the ground floor as well. For tomorrow, so if you, I don't remember what I wanted to say. Yeah, so if you didn't buy the workshop, which is the blue, color thing, I don't have it, so I should also do it. Blue color thing and your badge, right? Please do it, because otherwise we cannot really let you in. I'm sorry about that. Many people ask me about the recording. Yes, we have it. I think we're going to put it online. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. And yeah, so many people said it was a very nice conference. Again, it's all thanks to them. Please, again, another round of applause.
So I think I want to take the opportunity also to thank Majid. So you did really an amazing job. So let's give him also an applause. Woo. And I heard you don't like Bavarian food or something, but your team...
I love them.
Oh, you love
Who
it?
said
Okay,
that?
cool. Your team actually organized a little present for you. Oh, wow. There it is.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Great. So our photographers, prepared a story for you, and they told me to say it. I really don't remember it. So I put it here, and then you can interpret it. That's it. Thank you very much.
I also don't know the story. Okay, so let's move on to the awards, and I want to get the awards chair on
Maybe let's just introduce our award committee. So we have a wonderful award committee here. So we have Amanda Perak from University of Cambridge. We have Jonathan Thompson from Google DeepMind, and Dieter Fox from University of Washington. Jonathan unfortunately had to leave earlier today, but all three of them contributed to this, so I'm going to just give it to Dieter and Amanda.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dorsa. Fantastic. Good. So before announcing our finalists and winners, we'd like to take you through the rationale this year. So firstly, we decided to go without categorization because we wanted to select the papers that we really loved, that really impressed us, and that transcends categories and labels. So this year, there will be outstanding paper awards. We will have 6 finalists and 2 final winners. The process this year started with the program committee selecting 52 candidates for the 3 of us to go through. We reviewed all these candidates, including the reviews, and we finally came up with a list of 6 finalists. We then held 3 meetings, 1 before coming to CoRL and 2 here in person during the conference. And then in addition to actually considering the reviews and the meta-reviews and reading all the rebuttals and rereading the papers and reanalyzing the results, we decided to also solicit supplementary expert feedback from people who are very knowledgeable in the respective domains of the papers, because sometimes that went beyond expertise that was present within the committee. And with all that in our hands, we then chose our finalists based on 3 main criteria: potential for broader impact and generalizability of the presented concepts, application areas, and also real-world experimentation. And finally, also, we took a closer look at research methods and tools. All right. So with that, I hand over to Dieter.
Yeah, without further ado, we'll get first to the to the finalists. So what I'll do is I'll just announce them on in turn, and the authors who are present should please come up to the stage. All right, so again, 6 finalist papers. The first one is Polyformer, Scaling On Policy RL with Transformers Results in Masterful Navigators. And the authors are Kuo Hao Zheng, Kiana Ezani, Rose Hendricks, Jordi Salvador, Zichen Zhang, Alvaro Herasti, Ross Gershik, Aniruddha Kembavi, and Luca Weiss. Applause again. Yep. The second paper is Remix, Optimizing Data Mixtures for Large-Scale Imitation Learning by Joey Haina, Chethan Anand Bateja, Yichen Jiang, Carl Perch, and Dorsa Sadiq. Come on up. One Model to Drift Them All by Frank Germeau, Thomas Jonathan Liu, Nan Ding, Michael Thompson, Makoto Suminaka, Marcus Greif, and John Subusitz. Are there any of the authors? Oh yeah, I can see. All right, while he's coming on stage, we'll move on to the next one. Equivariant Diffusion Policy. Dian Wang, Stephen Hart, David Zurovic, Tarek Kelestimur, Hao Ji Huang, Haibo Zhao, Mark Yeatman, Jingwang Wang, Robin Walters, and Robert Platt. Getting closer. All right, Human Plus, Humanoid Shadowing and Imitation from Humans by Zipeng Fu, Qingjing Zhao, Qi Wu, Gordon Wettstein, and Chelsea Finn. Now it'll get painful. OpenVLA, an open source vision language action model. I'll do the last names, how about that? By Kim, Perch, Karamchetty, Zhao, Balakrishna, Nair, Rafailov, Foster, Sanketi, Wong, Collar, Birchfield, Tedrake, Sadiq, Levine, Liang, and Finn. And now we're gonna give you the 2 winners. And how we're gonna do this is the winners will get one of these wonderful Bavarian food boxes, I think. And I heard, because it's for traveling, it's vegetarian. Munich vegetarian food is kind of like a real contradiction. I can only imagine Kaiserschmarrn or something like dessert is vegetarian in Bavaria, but otherwise I'm afraid there might not be any pork knuckles in there or so, or vice versa. So that might be a disappointment, but still, I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. All right. So the winners are, first, Polyformer, Scaling On Policy RL with Transformers Results in Masterful Navigators.
The second winner is One Model to Drift Them All.
And all the other teams get a somewhat, it's the same size box, but maybe not the high-end Kaiserschmarrn in there, so I don't know. right, and I think now we're ready to move on to announcements for CoRL 2025. Yes, again. All right. I don't know.
Okay.
I think we should do one last round of applause for all the winners.
As every year, at the very end of the conference, we always announce where the conference will be next year. And let me get Michael on stage, and he can announce it. There you go.
Okay, so I'm the only one holding you between this and the dinner, so I'll try to be quick. I am extremely, extremely pleased to announce that CoRL 2025 will be in Seoul, Korea. The organizing team includes myself and Abhinav Gupta as general chairs, and Joseph Lim, Shuran Song, and Haewon Park as program chairs. We also have many supporters of the conference helping us as the organizing committee. Seoul, as you are probably aware, has been the capital of Korea, and it also was an ancient capital of Korea. So it is not just an urban city, it's also a cultural city with lots of good foods, places to visit, and things to do and see. You can enjoy the city in Gangnam, or you can be slightly more cultural by visiting one of many palaces in the city center. You can go shopping, or you can go to the side street of Korea and eat good food. There is a couple of new changes which you will want to note. One is the dates. It will be in September 27 to 30th instead of November, which will allow you to enjoy better weather in Seoul, Korea. But because of this change, everything will be shifted about a month, which includes paper submission deadline. Another change which you will want to note is the co-location with Humanoids 2025. Yes, they will be co-located at the same convention. They will be happening in a sequence with 1 day of overlap with joint keynotes and joint program. With that, I'm almost concluding. Before that, let me show you the nice picture of our convention center. What you see on the kind of middle left is our convention center, looking at it from the Buddhist temple across the street. So I hope to see all of you at CoRL with Humanoids in Seoul, Korea next year. Welcome.
Okay, that's it. Quick one, I messed up announcing your little present. Actually, the little thing you got comes with the ticket of the game that you have to go to, which is Bayern München something, Paris or something. So congrats, Majid. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have fun at the party, and thanks for being at CoRL. Bye-bye.